أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. Assalamu alayka ya Abu Abdullah. We send our condolences to the family and friends of dear marhum Haj Sayyid Hussein al-Iftikhari, who, as we witnessed, is a lover of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. His name is Hussein. He is buried in Wadi al-Hussein. He is buried and passed away during the time of Arba'in of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And I think that this is not a coincidence, because he was a very good person. He helped this masjid greatly when it needed help. And as we have in Ziyarat Ashura, that the same Allah who has honored Imam Hussein alayhi salam honors us through Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Dear brothers and sisters, if you, like Haj Hussein, connect and learn and love Imam Hussein, Allah will honor you through Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And this is not a coincidence. A few days ago, we had Arba'in program in the same cemetery a few days after he's passed away with Al-Walaya Center, Zainabiyya Center, 50, maybe 100 people were there. And this is all not a coincidence that those who are recently buried there, they get the reward. In a way, they get honored by the name of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So this majlis and program in Khatm, which is Shab Haftom, is mixed with the Arba'in of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And this is another, interesting thing that has happened. So we're going to be speaking about the next life, as well as speaking about what can we learn from Imam Hussein alayhi salam. This ziyarat that was mentioned and recited in front of you right now is Ziyarat Arba'in. And many of you have heard of it. It is one of the signs of the believers from Imam Hassan Askari alayhi salam, that the mu'min, the believer, has 5 signs. One of them, the signs, is that a person does Ziyarat Arba'in. He visits Imam Hussein in Arba'in. From this ziyarat, we came so far to this part that we say that why did Imam Hussein alayhi salam sacrificed himself, his family members? Why did he do this? We said one of them was to take away people from jahalat, to take away people from zalalat, to take away people from misguidance, to take away people from ignorance, because society at that time was so confused, was so misguided, that the only way they can wake up was for Imam Hussein alayhi salam to shed his pure blood. And today for us it is a reminder of the true Islam, that Imam Hussein alayhi salam saved us from the Islam of the Umayyads, saved us from the Islam of the Abbasids, and today we have the Islam of Prophet Muhammad. That is one aspect. Tonight there's another mystical aspect about why Imam Hussein alayhi salam sacrificed himself. In the same Ziyarat Arba'in, it says, Assalamu ala waliyillahi wa habibih. It says, peace be upon you, Imam Hussein, who is the intimate servant of Allah and is his most beloved. Then it says, Assalamu ala khalilillahi wa najibih. He is the friend of Allah, he is his elite. Therefore, from this part we understand that Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and we can't necessarily understand everything about the Ashura of Imam Hussein, but we do understand some, zahir and apparent understandings from the ziyarat, and that is when a person loves Allah, he gives everything for him. And that is when Allah raises his rank. Quran mentions this. Quran says, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَشْرِ نَفْسَهُ ابْتِغَاءِ مَرْضَاتِ اللَّهِ. There are those who have sold themselves to reach the mardat Allah, to reach the pleasure of Allah. Everything they have, if you look at your own lives, and I want you to think about it, how many times have you done something sincerely for God? When it was difficult, maybe you didn't have a lot of money, maybe you didn't have a lot of resources, but because of God, someone wanted something, someone needed something. You were thirsty, you were hungry, you gave when He needed. Then after that, what do you notice happens to you? See, Allah blesses you, looks at you in a different way because you have sacrificed what you had for Allah. So therefore we see the more that you sacrifice for Him, the more that you give for Him, the more you become His intimate friend. And this is the point. If you want to ask why have we been created, it is to give and sacrifice what we have for God and the creation of God in order to reach maqam, in order to reach position. Therefore, when you look at this view that we have, it's a different type of view to look at the world. It is looking through the world through a Husseini lens. We see that Imam Hussein alayhi salam is one who gave the world in order to please Allah. And now we look at the opposite. Those who killed Imam Hussein, those who did the worst action that humans ever did, that they gathered together, they covered their faces, and they hit Imam Hussein and made shaheed, the holy grandson of Rasulullah, until, some of the, Maghatil say Imam Hussein alayhi salam had so many arrows and so many spears covered that his whole body was covered with arrows. Who did this? What kind of people would do such a thing to the grandson of the Prophet? The Ziyarat Arba'in mentions who? The opposite. It says, وَقَدْ تَوَازَرَ عَلَيْهِ مَنْ غَرَّتْهُ الدُّنْيَا. And those who were seduced by this worldly life, those who were fooled, because this place, this world, is nothing but a world of illusion. We think it is something, but actually it is not anything. Quran mentions, or Imam Hussein alayhi salam mentions in his letter, he says, for example, this letter he wrote to, it says, فَكَانَ الدُّنْيَا لَمْ تَكُنْ وَكَأَنَّ الْآخِرَ لَمْ تَزُولْ. As if the world does not exist, Imam Hussein alayhi salam. This is how he is introducing dunya to us. As if the world doesn't really exist, and as if the hereafter has never ceased. It's always akhirat. So brothers and sisters, to summarize this, one of the great lessons we can learn from Imam Hussein's Arba'in and from himself, and related to this dear marhum Hajj Hussein, is that this world is transient in nature. This world, as much as we work for it, as much as we are supposed to plan for it, but regardless, we all have to pass away. We all have to leave this world. It is like you can imagine yourself, for example, if you ever go into a hotel and check in, should you really care about the hotel and think about, for example, I should repair the wall here, I should fix the wallpaper, the bed is like this? You say, no, because I'm going to be leaving. Tomorrow I'm checking out. In reality, also, we will be checking out of this life that we have, these homes that we have. Eventually, somebody else will be owning them. But we understand there's two paths. One is the path of the enemies of Imam Hussein that are attached and seduced by dunya, by the world. And the other is the path of Imam Hussein, who has dunya, has the world, has everything, but gives it all for Allah. So we have two paths in front of us. And this is what we're supposed to learn. Because death for us is nothing but a transformation into another stage of life. When we look at Hajj Hussein Iftikhari, we as believers, as Muslims, we never say, God forbid, he's annihilated. We believe he is still here. He's in another world, which is called Barzakh. He's in another place with his body, which is the grave. And it's a complete different world, which is Rawdatun min Riyadh al-Jannah, which is a heaven of the heavens of the real heaven. Or it is, for example, for the enemies of Allah, for the enemies of Ahlul Bayt, it is, Hufra, it is a place of fire, of nar, for example. So therefore, when we look at the world this way, and how we're supposed to and learn from the Holy Quran, we see that real life actually begins when we die. The Quran says this, that our hayat, our life, starts when we die. We think that this is life. But Quran, when mentions about Dar al-Akhirah is hayawan, is life, means that that is when our real life starts. Look, for example, a child that's in the womb of its mother. It's alive. Everyone says, it says after 4 months, the spirit is inside, right? And we say that life, if you take, for example, a 3D image of that, the child is basically, especially before that child is born, is doing everything else before being born. It's life. But we don't say that child is born yet. We say, when is his birth date? What is the time he was born? When he comes to this world. Why? Because that kind of life, even technically it is life, it is not a pure form of life. When he comes to this world, which is a more advanced stage of life, we call that life. But Quran calls that life that when our spirit leaves us, the Quran calls that life, and that is true life. But how many people are going to wake up and realize that this world is a bridge, you pass by it. This world is a place that you should not build it just to build it. Yes, you should prepare as if you're going to live 1,000 years. Prepare for it. You don't want to humiliate yourselves. You don't want to ask others for help in this world. You should have a good life, a good home. These are barakat. But what we want to understand is, what are we taking for ourselves in the hereafter? One of the teachers of akhlaq, teachers of ethics, once told a story. They say that a man came and took his students, and it was complete darkness. And he told his students, dear students, take whatever you can. Take whatever you can. They didn't know what it was. So they felt, and they had bags, and they took. After a while, they came into light, and the teacher explained to them, what was it? It was all precious stones. For example, imagine rubies, emeralds, for example, diamonds. And everybody was sad. Why was everyone sad? Because those who took, some took little. They were sad, for example, I wish I would have taken more. And even those who took a lot, they say, I wish I would have taken a lot of a lot. I wish I would have taken the whole thing. And then he says, this is the example of this world. That while you're in this world, Allah is giving you the chance to build your hereafter for you, to build the akhirat for you, to take gems. When you do something and it causes a smile on someone's face, that's like an emerald. The tradition says, the day of mahshar, when there will be sun, and we will not have shade, some will have shade. And those are the people that cause shade for other people. So you have this opportunity while you are alive, just like these, emeralds that you have here. You have these precious stones to gather for yourselves through worship, through kindness, helping each other out, and you'll build for yourselves a good akhirah. And this is the caravan of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. But the opposite is man qarrathu hayatu dunya, man qarrathu dunya, and those who were deceived by the world. They're the ones that wanted more of this world. They wanted the government of Ray, and they ended up killing Hussein ibn Ali. Please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad for all the marhumain, inshallah. So therefore, how can we live a life where one is not attached to this world? One of the traditions of Imam Ali alayhi salam, that Imam Ali was a zahid. Imam Ali had a lot. Imam Ali, some calculated at the end of his life, he wouldn't get money from the government as a khalifa, as a ruler. He would get 40,000 dinars. That's a dinar is kind of like a sikkah that we have in Iran today, for example, that size. It's like $400, something like that. So if you calculate that, $40,000, $400, something like that, $16 million of income, something like that, coming in through. But he didn't save anything. He would give it. He would give it to the poor. Give it. When you look at the life of Imam Ali alayhi salam, you see him say very beautifully that az-zuhd and asceticism, he says in Arabic, لَيْسَ الزُّهْدُ لَا أَنْ لَا تَمْلِكُ شَيْئًا. It doesn't mean that you don't own anything. Because some people think when you talk about dunya and world, it means to be lazy, to not go to work, for example, just stay at home. Actually, that is more dunya. Being lazy and not working is actually more dunya than someone who goes to work to provide for their family. They came to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. Person says, I'm coming, I'm working hard. He says, is this dunya? Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, Imam mentions, this is akhirah. You're working hard for them, you're getting halal income. This is akhirah. But Imam Ali alayhi salam says, dunya or zuhd doesn't mean a person who doesn't own anything. Because that is laziness. In a tradition for Imam Baqir alayhi salam, very interesting. It says that that person who doesn't work in this world will not work for the hereafter. A person who's lazy in this world, doesn't want to go to work, doesn't want to perform, will be more lazier for working for the hereafter. Why? Because he sees the world, he sees if he works hard, he'll get something. But the hereafter is a little bit trickier. It's going to come later on. So if he's lazy for this world, he'll be more lazier for the hereafter. So this isn't the right interpretation that we're saying today. Imam Ali alayhi salam mentions az-zuhd isn't that you don't own anything. وَلَكِنَ الزُّهْدْ أَنْ لَا يَمْلِكُكَ شَيْئًا. That nothing, zuhd is that nothing owns you. Nothing owns you, and it is hard, difficult. Imagine you have riches and they come to take it away. Someone like Omar ibn Sa'd, for example, a place of ray, a very great place, maybe a place where the Silk Road goes through, for example. He wants to be the governor of this. And this was, for example, his dream, that if he killed Hussein ibn Ali, he would have this vast empire. He would be great. But therefore, he was attached. But there are those who have all of this, have gardens and homes and houses, but it is all at the service of Allah and the friends of Allah. There is a story very interesting about Mullah Naraqi, who, you look at his life, he's a teacher of ethics, maybe around, say, 80 years ago. And a darvish, a person who is a Sufi, comes to him in his surprise and says, look at Mullah Naraqi, he wrote these books of akhlaq. How come he has a big house? How come, for example, he has so many servants? Why is he eating food like this? Let's just say, how come he has a lifestyle, zindagi like this? And Mullah Naraqi wants to show him something. He wants to show him, for example, this hadith of Imam Ali. That zuhd doesn't mean you don't have, you're a poor person. Zuhd, asceticism means that nothing owns you. So Sufi, Darvish, are you ready to go on a trip right now? And to go on a trip means just without anything, for example. Just to go to Karbala, just to go for ziyarah. Are you ready right now? Nothing. I will leave all these servants, I'll leave all my helpers, leave all it alone, and let's go on a trip. He says, yes, let's go. Let's see, for example, who is a true Zahid. They start the journey. A little bit into the journey, the Darvish forgets his kashkul, his little bag. He forgets it. He says, oh, let's go back. I forgot my bag. And he laughs at him, says, look, I left everything that I had. I had a lot. Paraphrasing. I left everything that I had a lot. I left it. But you just had one bag, for example, one item, and you are not willing to keep continuing without this one item. Sometimes people don't have much, but they're still attached to that little thing. So we have to understand from the message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam that there are two paths. The path that we are attached to this world, and the other path is the one that we remove everything, any type of ta'alluq, attachment that we have. Say, have it. Allah, I want you to have it. I want the friends of Allah to have it. I'm not going to be attached. I'm never going to do something haram. Nobody's ever going to give me a bribe. I'm never going to have haram income. I'm never going to do a business transaction when I'm lying, for example. I'm never going to exaggerate when it comes to my, the things that I'm selling, for example. I'm always going to tell the truth because I'm not attached to the world. I want halal income. There are three reasons. We'll end tonight's speech lecture with these three reasons why people get attached to the world and how we can remedy ourselves. One is this: mankind inherently loves immortality. Mankind, would you agree with me, has hubbul baqa. Everyone today is trying to live over 100, for example. Everyone, they're maybe 100 years old, they're trying to look as if they're 16 years old. They're trying to live long. Nobody wants to die early. This is called hubbul baqa. But this is inside, I agree. All of us have this. We love this. But what we are designed is that Allah placed in us hubbul baqa, love of to everlast, love to always live, in order to love the everlasting life in the hereafter. But yet we take this urge that is within us, and we want to take whatever we have in heaven and that urge to live forever. We want the dunya to fulfill this, but it won't. When you become 30, 40, you see you have to visit dentist all the time. When you're 40, your teeth start decaying. As Quran says, وَمَن نُعَمِّرْهُ نُنَكِّسْهُ فِي الْخَلْقِ. And whoever we give life to, we reverse in creation. Just like that baby that didn't have teeth, was bald, was born, that old person slowly becomes like that baby again. Teeth are gone, hair are gone, memory is gone, just like baby again. Right? So this cannot fulfill us. This world cannot fulfill hubbul baqa. We want to live forever, but we do. Islamically, it says you do live forever. When you are created, there's no more death for us. There's no more annihilation for us. It's only transformation from one stage of life to another stage of life, from one stage of life to a more advanced stage of life, which Quran now says alive. Now you are alive. So therefore, the good news is we will live forever. But again, what have you taken for yourselves? The second issue that we have is that we love completion. Hubbul kamal. Anybody here love to be insufficient? Anyone here love to be naqis? Nobody loves to be naqis. We all love to be kamil. We all love to be complete. We love our knowledge to be complete, our strength to be complete, our health to be complete. But this urge that Allah put in us, can the dunya fulfill this? Dunya cannot fulfill this. You can never be kamil in this world because this world is limited. But you can be kamil in the hereafter. You can be kamil when you connect to Allah, who is the perfect individual, the perfect being. There you can become perfect. So therefore, again, we get attached to the world because these things that are inside us, we want dunya to fulfill it, the world to fulfill it, but the world cannot make us kamil. How many people here, for example, person becomes rich? I remember when I went to the university, example of in business school, this is the example of, it's not darsa akhlaq, he's just said, for example, when you own a boat, you have a 10-foot boat, you want a 20-foot boat. When you have a 20-foot boat, you want a 30-foot boat. Then you want a 50-foot boat. Then you want a yacht, for example. Then you want an oil tanker because you want the largest boat that exists, for example. It's an example that he gave in business school. It means that the dunya will never satisfy you. The world will never make you kamil. The imams and traditions say this world is like salt water. The more you drink, the more thirstier you become. So therefore, we cannot get our completion through this world. Our completion is only when we are connected to God, who is kamil. Therefore, that is our completion, submitting to the will of God. And the last thing we'll end tonight's lecture is love of pleasure and prosperity. We love the dunya because it's fun. We love the dunya because it has pleasure, it has beautiful things. We live in California, Southern California. It has some of the greatest, sometimes national parks, greatest places to see. And it's great. I'm not saying not to go there, go and visit it. Quran says, Siru fil ard, visit the world, see it. But take an ibrad of this world. When it comes to pleasures of this world, do you think this world can truly give pleasures? How about all those really rich people that had everything they wanted in this world? Were they happy at the end? Because inside of them, they're actually the most depressed. Even though they have the most amount of wealth, most amount of power, they could do whatever they want. We don't see anyone who indulges in dunya, in sin, in corruption to live the best life. Actually, we see those who live a righteous life, those who have dignity. Last hadith tonight, and that is this. One of the greatest joys, we said the Hajj Hussein loved Imam Hussein alayhi salam, cried for Imam Hussein. One of the great gifts that Allah has given us is love of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, connection to Imam Hussein. What do you think is one of the greatest things if Allah presents to us paradise? What do you want to do in heaven? Our teacher, Sheikh Ahmed al-Mujtahidi, used to say that. We have our same classes. He loved to teach. He says, our class will be in heaven, inshallah, for example. He loved to teach, for example. What would you love to do in heaven? One of the traditions says this. And this is in Kamil al-Ziyarat, one of the old books, a book about 1200 years ago. It says this, in the end of this, قالوا أبا عبد الله عليه السلام ما عبد الله يحشر وعيناه باكية إلا الباكين على جد الحسين عليه السلام. Every in the day of judgment, all eyes will be tearful, except Imam Sadiq says, those who cried for my grandfather, Imam Hussein. Those eyes will not have tears because they cried for Imam Hussein. Allah honored them. Every eyes that says فَإِنَّهُ يُحْشَرُ عَيْنَهُ قَرِيرًا وَالْبَشَارَ, their eyes will be happy, delighted because they cried, they're Husseini, they loved Imam Hussein, they were at the service of Imam Hussein, they learned from the stories of Imam Hussein, they're dignified people. Then it continues and says وَالْخَلْقَ فِي الْفَزَاءِ, and everyone else is in faza, wondering what to do. It's the day of judgment. Now they're going to see my deeds, what's going to happen. But the lover of Imam Hussein in this strong tradition from Kamil al-Ziyarat says they're happy, they're delighted. Then it mentions, it says, وَالْخَلْقُ يُعْرَضُونَ وَهُمْ هُدَّاثُ الْحُسَيْنِ. It says it is the day of judgment. Those who cried for Imam Hussein, those who loved Imam Hussein alayhi salam will be present, and they are speaking with Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. They're speaking with them. They're sitting there. And it continues, it says, تحت العرش وفي ظل العرش لا يخافون سوء يوم الحساب. They're not even worried about the hisab kitab. They're with Imam Hussein alayhi salam because their hearts were with Imam Hussein. Their actions were with Imam Hussein. It's not just about crying. It's your actions are Husseini. And we said that ma'iyat and togetherness with Imam Hussein is when your traits are Husseini traits. You become like Imam Hussein alayhi salam. They're sitting next to Imam Hussein crying, because they cried in the dunya for him, and now they're sitting and talking. Then it says the women of the paradise come and they ask them to enter paradise. And then it says فَمَا يَرْفَعُونَ رُؤُوسَهُمْ, they don't even look at the ladies of paradise. They don't want to even enter paradise because their paradise, their lizzat is with seeing Imam Hussein, how he really is when all the barriers are removed. There's one Imam Hussein we understand from the books, and there's one Imam Hussein when the barriers are removed and you really see Imam Hussein alayhi salam. That Imam Hussein. It says for them they choose that over heaven. They don't want to enter heaven yet because their heaven is Imam Hussein. So this is lizzat. One of the greatest lizzats we can have in enjoyments is spiritual lizzat, and that is something that Islam offers. So for us to not become like the enemies of Imam Hussein, those who are seduced by the world, we said that man has 3 traits. All of these we're misusing. 1, we have hubbul baqa, but we should love the hereafter and plan for the hereafter. 2, we have hubbul kamal, love of perfection, but instead of kamal won't be in this dunya, it is with knowing Allah, obeying Him. And the third, we said that persons, they love the dunya because of lizzat and enjoyment. This dunya doesn't have lizzat by itself. Real lizzat, spiritual lizzat, is something that is out of this world, and the more you taste, the more you seek, inshallah. If we dim the lights, we'll do a tawassul, inshallah, to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. May Allah, inshallah, have mercy on the soul of beloved Haj Hussein and Iftikhari. Please recite a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. One of the main lessons we talked about tonight is the more you sacrifice for God, the higher your rank will be. Who sacrificed the most in Karbala besides Imam Hussein alayhi salam? Hazrat Abbas. Hazrat Abbas gave everything he had. His arms he gave. That's what Maqtal has. He came to bring the water, and he didn't even drink the water, even though he didn't drink for 2 or 3 days. He thought of the thirst of Imam Hussein alayhi salam and the family of Imam Hussein, Hazrat Ruqayya. He thought of the atfal of Imam Hussein, and he took that water and he put it back. He died, he left this world thirsty. When he came to bring the water, they hit one arm, hit the other arm. He took the flask with his teeth to bring it to Imam Hussein's family members. But how did Hazrat Abbas become so selfless? It is his mother, Ummul Baneen. Ummul Baneen, her real name is Fatima, but they say she was so humble that she asked the children of Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein not to call me Fatima because they would think of their mother Fatima to Zahra. They called her Ummul Banin. She had 4 sons. One of them is Hazrat Abbas. Now the caravan of Imam Hussein is coming back to Medina. Eventually, many of you have gone to a long trip, a long voyage. You usually feel good, would you agree with me, that you come back to town. You land in the airport, for example, or you see the mountains, you're coming from the freeway. You see the mountains, oh, this is where I live. I'm going back home after this long visit. But the caravan brothers and sisters of Imam Hussein were not like this. When they come back and see Medina, they are saddened because there is the house of Imam Hussein, but he's not there. There's the house of Hazrat Abbas, Hazrat Ali Akbar. They're not there anymore. They're devastated. So Bashir comes and to inform the people of Medina about what happened in Karbala. There Ummul Banin comes forward and he mentions and says that your children have been shahid. 4 of her children, 4 sons she had. She gave all of them for Imam Hussein. Some say she said, Hazrat Abbas, go with Imam Hussein, but do not come back without him. Go with him. She is inquiring about Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Bashir says to Banin, says, your sons have become shaheed. There she says, Akhbirni anil Hussein, for example, your son Uthman has been killed. Akhbirni anil Hussein, your son Abbas has been killed. She is not asking about her sons because we said Karbala is about sacrifice. She's telling me, inform me about Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. And then finally he says that Hussein ibn Ali has become shaheed. There she breaks in tears and says, me and my awladi wa man tahta al-khadra kulluhum fada'u li Abi Abdullah alayhi salam. May my children and everyone beneath the azure sky all be ransom for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un.